Welcome to a journey back in time, to a period of dramatic change and bustling life. Boston in the late 18th century was a city on the cusp of revolution. A vibrant port town with a population swelling to over 16,000 by the 1770s, making it one of British America's most important urban centers. It was a crucible of ideas, commerce, and simmering discontent. In this video, I use modern AI tools to bring historic paintings, engravings, and prints to life, allowing us to shift perspective, change camera angles, and move through the same scenes in ways their original artists never could. We'll explore the daily lives, the grand events, and the hidden tensions that shaped this pivotal American city. First, I want to talk about the Boston waterfront in 1768. This view shows the bustling Boston waterfront in 1768. A hive of activity that was the economic heartbeat of the town. In the foreground, we see numerous small boats, skiffs, and rowboats ferrying goods and people between the larger ships and the docks. Mid-ground, the wharves are packed with merchants, sailors, and laborers, all moving with a sense of urgent purpose. Barrels, crates, and bundles are being loaded and unloaded from towering sailing ships, their masts piercing the sky, while the smells of salt, tar, and exotic spices fill the air. The cacophony of creaking ropes, shouting dockhands, and the cries of gulls would have been constant. This vital commercial hub was not without its tensions. The arrival of British troops to enforce the Townshend Acts meant redcoats were a common sight, their presence a constant reminder of imperial authority and a source of friction with the local population. This waterfront was the gateway for goods, but also for ideas and, increasingly, for political resistance. Its immense importance to trade made it a focal point for both colonial prosperity and British control. Over time, much of this original shoreline has been filled in, pushing the harbor further out, but the spirit of commerce endures in the modern port facilities. The Old State House and King Street. This view brings us to the very center of colonial power and soon rebellion, the Old State House on King Street. By the 1770s, this iconic building housed the Massachusetts General Court and was a symbol of British governance. Its distinctive brick facade, with its lion and unicorn symbols of royal authority, dominated the street. Crowds would gather in the thoroughfare below, a mix of townspeople, merchants heading to nearby shops, and occasionally British soldiers on patrol. The air here was charged, not just with the sounds of horse-drawn carriages and conversation, but with political fervor. King Street, now State Street, was the scene of the infamous Boston Massacre in 1770. The tension between the occupying British troops and the increasingly restive populace was palpable, often boiling over into confrontations. This event, where British soldiers fired into a crowd, killing 5 colonists, became a powerful symbol for the Patriot cause, demonstrating the dangers of British military presence. The Old State House itself still stands today, a magnificent historical landmark that anchors the Freedom Trail, a silent witness to the profound changes that swept through Boston. Faneuil Hall and Market Square. By the mid-18th century, Faneuil Hall, often called the Cradle of Liberty, stood as a vibrant market and meeting place. This view shows its distinctive cupola and weather vane overlooking a bustling square. In the foreground, vendors would have set up stalls, selling everything from fresh produce and meats to imported goods. The sounds of haggling, the clatter of carts, and the general hum of commerce would have been ever present. The smells would have been a blend of fresh food, livestock, and the earthy aroma of the market itself. This market was not just for trade. It was a primary gathering spot where political ideas were openly debated. Its large hall became a favored venue for Patriot leaders like Samuel Adams and James Otis to deliver rousing speeches, stirring the colonists towards independence. The sheer concentration of people in the square made it a natural breeding ground for both community and discontent. While the original Faneuil Hall has seen several expansions and renovations, it remains a vibrant marketplace and a significant historical site, testament to its enduring importance to Boston's civic life. The Old North Church and North End skyline. This panoramic view captures the iconic Old North Church dominating the North End skyline in 1775. Its towering steeple, at 175 feet, was the tallest structure in Boston at the time, a crucial landmark for sailors entering the harbor and a beacon for the community. The surrounding rooftops of the North End are densely packed, illustrating the close-knit, often crowded nature of colonial urban living. The air would carry the distant sounds of church bells, mingling with the everyday noises of a busy neighborhood. The church's steeple played a critical role in American history when on the night of April 18, 1775, Paul Revere's lanterns signaled 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, warning of approaching British troops before the battles of Lexington and Concord. This act of defiance highlighted the ingenuity and courage of the Sons of Liberty and the ever-present danger of discovery. The close proximity of buildings, mostly wooden, also posed a constant threat of fire, a common danger in colonial cities. Remarkably, the Old North Church stands today, its steeple still a guiding light, a tangible link to that fateful night. Beacon Hill and the Common. This scene offers a glimpse of Beacon Hill before its significant alteration, overlooking the Boston Common. By the late 18th century, Beacon Hill was still a prominent triple-peaked natural feature, offering commanding views of the town and harbor. The Common, in the midground, was a vast open pasture used for grazing livestock, military drills, and public gatherings. In the foreground, you might see sparse homes beginning to dot the hillside, the beginnings of Boston's most exclusive neighborhood. The Common served as a gathering point for both recreation and protest. British troops frequently camped and drilled here, a show of force that often inflamed local sentiment. The hill itself was named for a beacon that stood at its summit, lit to warn the surrounding countryside of approaching dangers. The sheer size of the Common offered a brief respite from the crowded streets below, but also a space where colonial discontent could openly ferment. Today, Beacon Hill is famously gentler in slope, its peaks having been significantly reduced through engineering in the early 19th century to provide fill for new land, while the Common remains a cherished public space. Copp's Hill Burying Ground. This solemn view shows Copp's Hill Burying Ground, situated on one of Boston's higher points, overlooking the harbor and the Charles River in the late 1770s. The headstones, many leaning with age, are densely packed, representing generations of Bostonians, including prominent figures and African-American residents. The stark beauty of the cemetery offers a quiet contrast to the bustling town below. The only sounds would be the wind rustling through trees and the distant echoes of city life. During the siege of Boston in 1775 to 1776, Copp's Hill was strategically important. British forces set up artillery batteries here, using its elevation to bombard American positions in Charlestown. This strategic importance highlights the ever-present danger and military considerations during the conflict. The close proximity of the living and the dead, a common feature of colonial towns, also served as a constant reminder of the fragility of life, especially during periods of disease outbreaks. Copp's Hill Burying Ground is still an active historical cemetery, a peaceful yet powerful reminder of Boston's rich past. The South End Neck. This perspective reveals Boston's Neck, the narrow strip of land connecting the Maine Peninsula to the mainland. In the 1760s, the Neck was the only land route into and out of Boston, making it a critical strategic point. In the foreground, you might see a single road, perhaps a toll booth, and a small number of buildings, likely taverns or guardhouses, catering to travelers. The landscape stretches out, more rural than urban, with open fields and marshland dominating the midground. The sounds would be of horses, wagons, and the distant cries of marsh birds. The narrowness of the Neck made it easily defensible, which was both a blessing and a curse for the colonists. During the British occupation, it was heavily fortified, effectively cutting off Boston from the surrounding countryside and leading to severe shortages and hardship for its residents. The danger of being trapped within the city limits was very real. Its strategic significance meant control of the Neck was paramount throughout the colonial period and the early stages of the Revolution. Over the centuries, extensive landfill projects have dramatically widened the Neck, transforming it into a broad, densely urbanized area that barely resembles its original form. Christ Church, Old North. Interior. This view takes us inside Christ Church, more famously known as the Old North Church, around the time of the Revolution. The interior is characterized by its elegant Georgian architecture, with tall white box pews filling the nave, and the prominent pulpit dominating the scene. Light streams in through the large windows, illuminating the carefully crafted wooden details. The atmosphere would have been one of quiet reverence, punctuated by the organ music and sermons that filled the space. This was a place not only of worship but also of community gathering. The hierarchy of colonial society was often reflected in the pew assignments, with prominent families occupying the more desirable locations. The shared experience of faith provided a sense of unity, but religious differences also contributed to social friction in the broader community. The safety of the building itself, constructed of brick and mortar, made it less susceptible to the devastating fires that often plagued wooden structures. Today, the interior of the Old North Church is remarkably preserved, allowing visitors to step back in time and experience the very space where critical moments in American history unfolded. The Boston Tea Party at Griffin's Wharf. This dramatic scene depicts the Boston Tea Party, specifically the destruction of tea at Griffin's Wharf on December 16, 1773. In the foreground, a group of colonists, disguised as Mohawk warriors, are actively engaged in breaking open tea chests and dumping their contents into the harbor. The large sailing ships like the Dartmouth, Eleanor, and Beaver loom in the midground, their decks swarming with figures. The sounds would have been a mix of splintering wood, splashing water, and the hushed, determined activity of the Mohawks. The night air would have been chilly, and the tension palpable. This act of defiance was a direct response to the Tea Act and the principle of taxation without representation. While seemingly a chaotic event, it was a highly organized and politically charged protest, carried out under the watchful eyes of many Bostonians. The danger of discovery and severe punishment from British authorities was very real, yet the Sons of Liberty pressed on. This single event proved a crucial turning point, escalating the conflict between the colonies and Great Britain and cementing Boston's role in the march towards independence. Griffin's Wharf, like much of the original Boston shoreline, has been altered by landfill over the centuries, but its location is marked by historical plaques and monuments. Paul Revere's Ride. This iconic scene captures Paul Revere on his legendary ride on the night of April 18, 1775. In the foreground, Revere, mounted on his horse, gallops through the countryside, likely along a dark winding road outside of Boston. The moon perhaps casts long shadows and the air is filled with the sounds of hooves pounding and the urgency of his mission. The midground would show the sparse, unlit colonial houses and farms he passed, and the background, the shadowy outlines of trees and distant hills. Revere's mission was to warn Samuel Adams and John Hancock, as well as the colonial militias, of the approaching British forces. The danger was immense. Being caught by British patrols would have meant imprisonment or worse. His ride, along with those of William Dawes and Samuel Prescott, was critical in mobilizing the Minutemen who would confront the British at Lexington and Concord, firing the first shots of the American Revolution. The journey itself highlights the primitive infrastructure of the time, where information traveled by horseback and darkness added to the peril. Today, the route Revere took is commemorated by historical markers and is a testament to individual courage in the face of tyranny. The Battle of Bunker Hill. This powerful view depicts a moment during the Battle of Bunker Hill, fought on June 17, 1775, just across the Charles River from Boston and Charlestown. In the foreground, American militiamen, entrenched behind makeshift fortifications on Breed's Hill, often mistakenly called Bunker Hill, fiercely resist repeated British assaults. Smoke and fire fill the air, and the sounds of musket fire, cannon blasts, and shouts of men would have been deafening. The midground shows waves of red-coated British soldiers advancing uphill, suffering heavy casualties. In the background, Boston itself is visible across the water, with residents watching the horrific spectacle unfold. This battle, though a tactical victory for the British, was a profound moral victory for the nascent American forces. Despite running low on ammunition and eventually retreating, the colonists demonstrated their ability to stand against the formidable British army, inflicting heavy losses. The danger and sheer brutality of the fighting were immense, with thousands of casualties on both sides. The immense cost of the battle, especially for the British, significantly impacted their strategy for the remainder of the siege. Today, the Bunker Hill Monument stands proudly on Breed's Hill, commemorating the bravery and sacrifice of those who fought there, a constant reminder of the high price of freedom. The Boston of the late 18th century feels incredibly close when we look at these scenes, brought to life through the lens of AI. From the bustling wharves to the hallowed grounds of the Old North Church, we can almost hear the shouts of merchants, the ring of church bells, and the whispers of revolution. The stories etched into these streets continue to resonate, reminding us of the courage, struggles, and triumphs that forged a nation. If there's another city, moment, or scene from history you'd like to see brought to life with AI, let me know in the comments below. Again, thank you so much for joining me on this journey.